Hey there, it's Melissa and welcome back to my channel and possibly the Coco Vanilla Studio channel. Hoping to get this layout or this video up on there as well. So just wanted to show you what I'm working with and what I've done ahead of time before I get going into this process. So I'm working with the amazingly, it's gorgeous. I know gorgeous is normally a word we use for girly things, but this collection is incredible. It's the Legendary collection and it's a male themed collection, but there's no reason why you can't use it on girl layouts. And if you look, for example, on our Instagram page over at Coco Vanilla, you'll see projects where it's been used in many different ways. So I'll talk about my photo soon. But what I've pulled are the flare badges. I've got some of the enamel dots. This is probably one of my all-time favourite products from Coco Vanilla. They are the clear stickers to make sure we've got no glare. You can see I've already used some on my last project. I've got the accessory stickers, which I love as well, and I especially love the words that help with your journaling, or if you're a scrapbooker that doesn't journal, then these could be really helpful. And then this paper is called All Star, and you can see I've fussy cut a lot of it, and so I have fussy cut all of the sizes except the really tiny ones. That was pushing my patience boundary a little bit, but yeah, I just love it. There's a beautiful selection, and this paper was begging to be fussy cut. And then as some layers behind my photo, I've pulled this one, which I used in my last layout, called Epic Tales. It's the cut apart sheet, but I just love this beautiful triangle pattern. And then I've got the star pattern called Offbeat, and the other side of that is this paper, which I'm actually using as my background, and I'll show you that in a sec. And oh, so I've also pulled out the main, the full sheet of paper to show you. Heaps of stars on there. You've seen the other side. And then I have this star wreath cut file from Paige Evans, and what I've done just with my pattern paper background, I loved this background. I thought it was begging as well to be a full layout. So I've just stitched around 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times, I think. So that's what it looks like on the back. And my intention is to place this about here, put my photo here under the star. Oh, I should add that I've also added some vellum from my stash. I just wanted to break up and make this a bit more softer. Yeah, this is actually a really hard layout for me to scrap. If I sound emotional, it's because I am. This is my brother-in-law, and he had a brave battle with cancer, and he passed away last October, and so he got diagnosed in October and passed away the following October, so he nearly survived a year. But anyway, I think I might talk to you about that in my voiceover. But what I will say is I haven't been able to scrap him yet. It's really difficult. It's really upsetting. He was an amazing man. So he's my brother's my husband's brother, and yeah, there's a lot I could say about him. But I think I'll leave it to talk to you in the voiceover about that. What I will say as well, though, is that I found it really hard to scrap him because it's so raw and emotional. And but when I saw this collection, I knew that I had found the perfect collection to scrap him. And yeah, I've pulled these words from the die cut titles pack, and so there's heaps of cool words in there. You can build your titles. I've also pulled the die cut pack, the die cut ephemera pack, and yeah, I don't know what I'm going to use yet, but when we get to embellishing, I think I'll talk more about that. So that's the products I've got, and let's get started. Okay, so the first thing I decided to do was put a couple of photo mats behind my photo. This photo was originally colour, but Blair loved to wear rugby jerseys, and the colours that he was wearing in this really didn't go with the colour scheme, or probably with any, this sounds really rude, but with any scrapbooking collection. I think it was an orange or red kind of top, and I struggle with scrapping orange and red photos. or photos that have that colour in them. So here I'm using, I think this paper is called All Star, and I'm just using the other side of it. So the B side is what I'm using as my background, and I've just used the other side with lots of stars on it. I don't think you can really tell that they're stars because I've cut it quite close to the photo, and then I'm just distressing my edges with my distressing tool. And if you watch my videos, you know that I love doing that. I'm in a phase or a trend of doing that at the moment a lot. I'm also in this phase of using double-sided tape and liquid adhesive, and that's just because I was going through some albums from a long time ago and I found some paper that had come off and all I'd used was double-sided tape, and I was quite shocked by that because I thought that I could rely upon double-sided tape. So I've also used the Epic Tales paper, and I've used the side that is, I think it's a whole lot of triangles, and it's quite subtle. That's a glass of kombucha. It's kombucha in a stemless wine glass, in case you're wondering what that is. Yeah, so I knew I wanted to position the photo underneath that yellow star there, and I am sorry about the glare. Having to film at night just because we are still in lockdown, which means we have to stay at home unless we're going out for essential services, and everybody's here all the time. So here I'm just putting some dimensionals, Stampin' Up! Dimensionals behind the stars. Obviously I'm not putting them on the vellum ones because you'd see them through the vellum, but it doesn't matter. There's no, when you look at the layout in person, you don't look at the vellum stars and wonder why they're flat. So I probably should have sped this up a bit, but just taking off all those backing pieces. While I'm doing this, I'll talk a bit more about Blair. So he basically had food poisoning, went to the hospital. They told him he had a blood clot. He was admitted to hospital, then he was discharged a few days later. They told him that if he felt any symptoms, he was to come back. He felt those symptoms when he was out doing some voluntary work with some rugby boys that he works with. So he went back to the A&E on his own, and they MRI'd his chest to see if the blood clot had travelled to his lungs, and they said to him, you've got stage 4 liver cancer. So then they basically MRI'd his whole body, and they found out that he had colon cancer, and it was in other parts of his body as well. And they basically told him that there was nothing they could do. It was palliative care only. He was 38, he's got 2 daughters, and it was just devastating news for our family. So he decided that he had a bucket list of things he wanted to do, and it drew media attention. It drew the attention of the All Blacks because one of them was a rugby game, one last rugby game. And then when he'd almost completed his bucket list, or near close to it, he decided that the level of cancer care in our country was terrible. So he started a petition, and that was the biggest petition that the government has ever been presented with. And basically he got the government to create a cancer care agency. So he would have been named New Zealander of the Year, except he passed away, and the rule was that you had to be alive and accept it in person. So yeah, it was a pretty emotional year for us as a family. We had hopes and dreams of growing up together with his family. I mean, obviously we'll still hang out with his family, but he won't be there. So yeah, it's been really hard for me to even attempt scrapbooking any of the photos. This photo was, I think it was a week after he'd been diagnosed, and we went down, we take Ava for an appointment herself at the hospital, and we called in to see him, and at this point he was just looking like his normal self. He hadn't started any treatment yet. Basically he was excuse me, I went for a 20k bike ride, so that's why my voice is a bit funny. So he basically was given, I think, 6 weeks to live under the public health system, but his appointment wasn't going to come through till 3 months, I think, after he was diagnosed, and so they had to go private, and that's what fired him up and my sister-in-law into realising this is terrible in our country for this to be happening, and something had to be done. Anyway, back to the layout. So I fussy cut all these stars out, and originally I was going to place the bigger ones as well, but they didn't look quite right. So I put one of them on my photo, that blue one, and then I just went around the wreath and just adhered all these stars. So I've also added a sticker from the sticker sheet, and I've put one of the word stickers on top of that. I've used some of those beautiful clear stickers with kind of artsy look. They make it look like you've done mixed media when you haven't, and I love it because you can't really see the edges of the stickers. So it's only if you're looking really close you'd even see that it's a sticker. I found with this layout that I didn't need to add much embellishment in terms of anything extra like die cuts or stickers, because, or even flare badge, because basically all those fussy cut stars did the work for me. And then I didn't realise that my phone had stopped recording, but all you really missed was me adding the journaling and a little bit more of the detail. So yeah, that's my layout, and this will be the first one of many that I want to scrapbook with Blair. So thank you so much for watching.